The Gulf Coast is experiencing significant growth and expanded economic development, but it takes a team of people to help build that infrastructure. Today we're going to look into a program that is helping support this movement with the University of South Alabama's Civil Engineering Department. That and more, all this week on The Job.
Our final stop was at Dog River with Dr. Brett Webb. He has constructed something very interesting which helps collect specific data on large bodies of water.
Well, Dr. Webb, we're here at Dog River and I'm all dressed out and everything, and it looks like we have a jet ski, but I think you called it a jag ski.
Yeah, Jag ski was the name that was given to it to sort of fit with the University of South Alabama Jaguar theme and mascot. And what we've got here is a 3-person personal watercraft. It's a 2008 Kawasaki model. And we've put a number of pieces of equipment on here that we can use to measure certain things about the movement and the characteristics of the water.
Interesting. So I guess we're going to try to see how that works today, right?
That's the plan anyways. It looks like everything's on and everything's working. And so the idea will be to go out here and collect 2 types of data today, really using or showcasing the 2 pieces of equipment that we have on here.
Now, why is this research important?
For a number of reasons. This really became most relevant during the recent oil spill, and that's really the emphasis behind this new piece of equipment on the back, which is a YSI portable seakeeper. And what this does is got 2 different sensors inside. It collects near-surface sample of water continuously as we drive along, and it's got a crude and refined oil, or crude oil and a refined fuel sensor inside that allows us to measure the relative concentrations of those things at the surface. So the idea was to have this piece of equipment operational during the oil spill, and it just so happened that after we actually submitted this proposal to National Science Foundation, the next day the well was capped. And so they decided to follow through with it and said, you know what, this is still going to actually end up having a positive impact in terms of research efforts, and so we're continuing to use it in the Bay and also in places like Dog River.
Do firms out in the real world, do they use equipment like this?
Generally, they don't have the in-house capabilities to have something this sophisticated. They would subcontract out to a specialized firm, or maybe even to their local academic institution like the University of South Alabama.
So what you're telling me, Dr. Webb, is this equipment has more or less changed the game for your program?
Yeah, and it's actually funny that you would say that word, because when I came back after operating this system for the first time, I was telling my colleagues that this is truly a game changer.
And it is.
Yeah, it really is.
Can you walk through some of the pieces of equipment for me just to let me know kind of what everything does and how it works?
Absolutely. The first thing we have here is this little white unit right here, and this is called an acoustic Doppler current profiler. And this has 9 beams. One of them is a vertical beam that allows us to measure the depth of the water. And then the other 8 beams are used, and they have different frequencies, and they jump between the frequencies depending on how deep the water that you're in. And so the instrument already knows and has pre-programmed into it this sort of frequency hopping algorithm. So if you're in really shallow water, it's going to use a high frequency signal, and if you're in deeper water, it'll use a low frequency signal to measure not only the depth but also the water velocities. And so what this instrument does is allows us to create more or less a 3D picture of what the water column looks like, how the water's moving, where it's moving, and how fast it's moving.
Because the bottom line is we can't see what's in that water.
That's right.
We just can't. However, with the Jag ski, changes everything.
Yes, absolutely. So we can see how fast the water's moving at the bottom relative to the surface, or vice versa, or how fast it's moving on one side of the river or the other, one side of the bay or the other.
And you need to know that if you're building a bridge, or if you have a building out there, or even oil, or whatever it is.
Yeah, and also just in terms of general circulation of the bay or for a river, it's very important to understand this information, because it allows you to estimate or characterize how water is exchanged between different bodies of water, and that could be important not only for pollutants, but also for sediment transport. So that goes a long way in determining how healthy our beaches are. So how is sediment moving in and out of the bay, communicating with the Gulf of Mexico, but also biological material. Not only harmful algal blooms, how they might move in and out from the Gulf of Mexico to Mobile Bay, but also how larvae and post-larvae might be lost from Mobile Bay to the Gulf of Mexico or vice versa.
Wow, so this has really embarked, the department to gain a whole different perspective on the research you guys can conduct.
Yeah, I think more than anything, this has really launched us into a legitimate, field-capable research department.
Dr. Webb showed me all of the equipment used for the jag ski, and then it was time to put the jag ski on the water and collect some data.
All right. You ready, I'm ready, baby. Wow, this thing does have a lot of power, though. A little more detail.
And the other part of using a jet ski that sort of makes sense is that when the conditions are bad, the data that we collect is really too noisy to make any sense of anyways. So the limitations on the data collection sort of match the limitation on when it's appropriate to use this anyways. But also, being a relatively small program, we don't have lots of staff, we don't have lots of technical assistance, and we don't have lots of experience in terms of maintaining a boat or even storing a boat. And having something like this is pretty manageable.
Civil engineering dates back to 4000 BC, when humans abandoned a nomadic existence and adapted a system for infrastructure. Fast forward to 2011, and the University of South Alabama's Civil Engineering Department is supporting the expansion of the Gulf Coast by supporting the structural support and progress for years to come. That's a wrap for this week's show. I'm your host, Bobby John Drinkard, and we'll see you next week on The Job.